All right, now that you've heard from the head coach of the East Liverpool Potters, a quick roundup as far as what else happened in the region. Dakota Price got things started early for Oak Glen. A 95-yard kickoff return. Oak Glen defeats Buckeye Local 16-6. Beaver Local lost to Martins Ferry by a score of 47-0. It will be Oak Glen and Beaver Local Friday night. That's the biggest game on the slate this weekend. And Columbiana defeated Wellsville 25-20, but another good game for the Tigers. Justin Miller, 165 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, something of even more importance than sports, even though we love our Friday night lights, there's this presidential election that's about to happen on November the 8th, and also that U.S. Senate race in Pennsylvania that I have said many times between incumbent Pat Toomey, who has been a big advocate of helping those in the coal industry, natural gas, steel industry, nuclear energy industry. He is facing challenger Katie McGinty. And if you are in West Virginia, obviously you're concerned about the coal industry. In eastern Ohio, they too thinking natural gas and the possibility of maybe a cracker plant coming to their region, as we have now going up in Monaca. And just before you make your way to where they're building that Shell cracker plant, there is also First Energy, an amazing nuclear energy source that we continue to use in this region. And there's been some sad news of late, too. You probably have heard, infecting, I'm sure, workers in eastern Ohio and the panhandle of West Virginia, as it is in western Pennsylvania. That, of course, the closing of the ATI, Allegheny Ludlam plant in Midland, in which 250 workers will be affected. So what we're going to do right now, we are going to go back out to our main studio and welcome on the AT&T smartphone line. He is Doug Saltzman, political analyst, talking about the election and the significance of this U.S. Senate race as we continue tonight from Legacy Studios in East Liverpool. Polling analyst Doug Saltzman also on the AT&T smartphone, because we've got a lot of things happening in our region. We are in Eastern Ohio at Legacy Studios with your Pratt Pack on this Wednesday night, and we have decided to talk about the upcoming election with polling expert, my friend, Doug Saltzman, who will be on the air on his Radio 1020 KDK tonight with John McIntyre at 10, and then again with John McIntyre Saturday at 8. John, let's talk about what is happening with the U.S. Senate race. The latest reports have U.S. Senator Pat Toomey in front by a swing of about 2%. What are you hearing?
I hear about the same thing. It's well within the margin of error. This is a toss-up at this point. I'm not sure how much anymore these days that coattails matter. Pennsylvania must be within range for both candidates, both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, because they're in the states so much. If it were one way or the other, they wouldn't bother being here so much. So if there's coattails to be had, it's not quite clear yet if that's going to affect or help either of these U.S. Senate candidates. But what I've heard so far is not very similar to what you just said. This race is up for grabs for the U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania.
One of the reasons why I think he's still hanging on to that slim lead, even though he has not come out and supported Donald Trump, who has been falling in the polls of late, is his continued work with the coal industry and energy, such as nuclear energy, natural gas industry. We are strategically located just miles from the Shell petrochemical plant, right across the Ohio River from the state of West Virginia, which is all about the mining industry. Your thoughts on why he may be hanging on to this lead, and do you think that maybe because of his fight for energy in our region may be one of the reasons?
Yeah, I absolutely. He's made that very clear. It's been one of his priorities during his time in the U.S. Senate. He's been critical in this campaign of his opponent, Katie McGinty's, perhaps beyond a lack of knowledge, but beyond that, perhaps lack of support, especially for the coal industry.
Let's move on now to the presidential race. Former President Bill Clinton will make a stop. He will be in Aliquippa on Friday. I will be filling in for Marty Griffin. We're going to be talking about his visit to this region. His wife, by the way, the Democratic nominee, celebrating her birthday today. She was born on this date in 1947. She has, at last report, a 5% lead. Donald Trump has been out there doing everything he can possibly do, even saying today he's willing to spend some of his own money here in the home stretch of this race. The question is, does he have a chance, in your opinion?
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, it's tough for a Republican. There has not been a Republican presidential candidate to win Pennsylvania since George H.W. Bush won in 1988. He lost it 4 years later to Bill Clinton in 92, and there hasn't been a Republican to win Pennsylvania since. Of course, there hasn't been a Republican running for president like Donald Trump either. So in this race, good heavens, we're 10 days out, and it's still unclear. 5 points is a decent lead, but you're only about 2 or 3 points away from the margin of error. So Pennsylvania, if I were to guess right now, will go Hillary Clinton. But who knows in this crazy presidential election year?
Tonight, Doug Saltzman on the air, John McIntyre at 10, News Radio 1020 KDK. They make a great 1-2 punch. Please make sure that you tune in tonight. And I will be filling in for Marty Griffin Friday at 9, and then he will be back with John McIntyre Saturday at 8 o'clock. Your thoughts about how this election has really taken a turn for the worse as far as ugliness in recent weeks. It's not good for democracy. I don't like it, but I don't see this type of politics ending anytime soon. Your opinion?
Oh, I agree with that, too. I mean, every time we seem to say, oh, this is the worst yet, but this truly is the worst yet. I've never seen negative campaigning to this level. Name-calling, frankly, from both sides, and just the vitriol of it. It's disappointing because it turns people off. I mean, negative campaigning works. Every politician knows that. They wouldn't do it if it didn't. You can criticize politicians for not being good at certain things, but they are good at running for office. But this time it has just got so negative. But we'll wait and see. The turnout at primaries earlier this year have been extraordinary, the highest turnouts in many years for both parties, but especially on the Republican side.
Doug, always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll be listening tonight at 10 with you and John McIntyre on News Radio 1020 KDK. Good evening.